more, we can cross to Moscow and speak to Alexandra Filippenko, a senior research fellow at the Institute for U.S. and Canadian Studies. Thank you for speaking to France 24. First of all, do you share Washington's assessment that the Kremlin wants to overthrow the Ukrainian government?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And we could see the evidence to that on Monday. And that speech that President Putin gave on Monday to the Russian people actually stated that he does not accept a Ukrainian government, however ridiculous this might sound. But that's exactly what he said. It was basically a history lesson that, first of all, told us that Ukraine as a country was created by Vladimir Lenin around 100 years ago. And another thing is that current Ukrainian government is a government of Nazis. I'm sorry, I really cannot believe these words that are coming out of my mouth, but that's what we've heard, that this government is an occupational government that is dangerous for Ukrainians, first of all. And what they said, actually, and afterwards, some of the government officials, they explained this position. They said that 3 to 5% of Ukrainians are Nazis, and it's a denazification procedure. So Russian forces must help Ukrainians to get free and be freed from those Nazis. That's obviously ridiculous. And I'm personally, on a personal note, I'm personally worried about President Zelensky himself, actually.
Yeah, and on that note, we know that Ukraine's military is outmanned and outgunned. Zelensky, once again this Friday, reiterating that the sanctions that were imposed on Thursday are not strong enough to stop Putin. What more could the West do in hopes of stopping this violence?
Well, yes, the sanctions are not that strong. No one expected this kind of sanctions. And first of all, Ukraine needs military help, personnel help, and tactical help, because because Ukraine, of course, historically, it's never been a military state or a state that wages wars. So that's why they truly need help from their neighbors and from the European Union, from the European society. And looking from Russian perspective, sanctions, any kind of sanctions that would affect somehow Russian people are, I think, and I probably think that the Russian government doesn't really care about those sanctions. They care about personal sanctions. They care about sanctions that affect them personally. So because we've seen the example of Iran after the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979. Iran has been under sanctions for many years, and it's been a long time since 1979. So Russian government, after 2014, after Crimea, expecting some kind of sanctions, it started building up this financial cushion, let's say. So they feel pretty strong about themselves, and they know that they have, most probably they have China's support. So they feel pretty strong, and that is why only personal sanctions strong personal sanctions might really make a difference.
Yeah, and Iran's government telling Russia that it felt that the West has been provoking this standoff as well. Meanwhile, China and Russia also sit on the UN Security Council, who's to convene later today in New York. So doubtful that any binding resolution could come of that. I'm curious if you could tell us, how are Russians themselves reacting? We saw that there were some anti-war protesters in the country. Police made more than 1,700 arrests at 51 cities across that. Just how well informed are the Russian public about this invasion, and what are their feelings about it?
Well, I was one of the protesters yesterday because I participated in that anti-war protest, and I saw a violent crackdown of the movement, and I think that it's critically small amount of people who participated in an anti-war protest, and it was scary to see people being thrown in police cars and taken to some all over Moscow for screaming "No to war." They were screaming those words. words, and police were just taking them and arresting them. So it is pretty scary to protest right now. It's not, no, it's really scary. And regarding Russian people, I would actually argue with the previous anchor who talked before me, who spoke before me. I would say that Russian people, it's not that they're not prepared, that President Putin didn't prepare the people for the war, for this particular war, but thanks to Russian propaganda, Russian people see everyone in the outside as enemies. So it is ridiculous to say those words, Russian war with Ukraine, because it's a brotherly nation, and that's the words that we learn and when we're children. It's a brotherly nation. Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia, brotherly nations. So it sounds horrific, but Russian government made a really good job at preparing Russian people for this war. Or not maybe this particular, but for the war generally. So I would say that there is no overwhelming support among Russian people, but there is quite good amount of support. I would say not 50-50, but there are just a few percent who come out and protest, but people are really scared to protest. It's very dangerous to protest right now in Russia, according to the laws. And but I would say that the sentiment among those who go out and protest is very close to the French resistance during the Second World War. And I would never think that in my lifetime I would understand how the people in the resistance from the Second World War would feel, or how would anti-fascists feel in Germany on the 1st of September 1939. I would never imagine. But actually, since I'm talking about this, since President Putin is really fixed on Second World War and Russia's victories, and Soviet Union becoming this great player on the international stage, so that is why of course I think about those times. And I'm sorry that I'm talking for so long, but the last thing I'd like to say that I think Poland and Baltic states understand really well that if President Putin gets Ukraine, he most probably won't stop there.
Yeah, and on that note, the U.S. says it's closely watching Russia's activity beyond Ukraine. So there are these fears that he could have another play after this. How realistic do you think that is?
Well, again, coming back to that speech on Monday and the other one yesterday night, if we can judge by the words of President Putin, he wants to restore basically the Soviet Union. And we know that quite a few times during his interviews, I don't know if it's known in for the European public, but we all heard many times that he said that the greatest tragedy of the 20th century is the collapse of the Soviet Union. Not the Great War, not the Second World War, but the collapse of the Soviet Union is the greatest tragedy of the 20th century, according to President Putin. So he sees his mission as restoring Soviet Union in this way or another. And we've seen his overwhelming support of Belarus in 2020 when people tried to overthrow Lukashenko, and now we see what he's doing with Ukraine.
All right, Alexandra Filippenko, thank you very much for your time and your analysis. Alexandra Filippenko from the Russian Academy of Sciences.